What is up, guys? We are live. Welcome to the Bags to Riches podcast. I am your host, Zach Ginn, and I made this podcast because I was a high schooler in real estate wholesaling with $0, and I started as a bag boy into bandit signs. And honestly, that's how I made my first 100K. And one of the first guys I thought I'd have to get on this podcast is another guy as a teenager who got into bandit signs and went literally from nothing to something. Is Alex Saenz. So you guys have probably heard of All In before. I got Carlos and Sal on the podcast, and now we finally got the last All In guy, Alex Saenz. So Alex, thank you so much for coming on today.
No, appreciate you. Yeah, it's we've been waiting for a little while, so I'm glad to be here. And for everybody watching this, I mean, welcome. I know it's going to be a good one, so stick around.
All right, sweet. So let's get off from the top. What is your story from nothing all the way to becoming a millionaire at 22 years old with the power of real estate wholesaling? 22. Wow. So tell me, what's your story?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, Zach, I mean, thank you for having me on. I know you don't just have anyone on, so I'm honored and humbled. But yeah, for those that don't know who I am, my name is Alex Saenz. I'm now 24 years old. I'm here in Phoenix, Arizona. Been wholesaling and flipping, now doing some developments. Started at 18, like Zach mentioned, straight out of high school. I graduated high school, and like many people, I really believe that I had the skill sets and the view to really become someone, right? Like I knew that there was something out there greater for me. I knew that I didn't want to live, by society standards and just really limit myself. I really wanted to go into a business that allowed me to create an infinite amount of not only money but fulfillment and really time, right? Because for me, I was chasing the time freedom more than anything. So 18, I graduated high school. One of my buddies, Jalen White, he closed a deal 2 days before graduation, and he showed me his bank account. So I was very fortunate to see that this business was real, right? Like a lot of people looking from the outside in, they think that it's a scam or it's too good to be true, or you need money, you need credit, you need rich parents, or just all they feel like they just require so much more than actually is actually needed, right? So I knew this business was real from the get-go, so I never had to battle those challenges of not believing it's true. But I believe I started at 18 and a half, straight out of high school, and I thought I was going to get a deal like my first week. I had the mindset of like, oh, this is easy, and I'm just going to go for it, and I'm going to make a bunch of money in a week or a month, and life really hit me, right? It took me 9 long months to get my first real estate wholesale deal, right? And this was at a time in my life where my parents had just recently divorced. About 2 years prior to that, I was really in a dark spot. I didn't have any financial support or really any emotional support. There was no holidays. I mean, Thanksgivings and Christmases were pretty, spending around my friend's house versus like family, right? So like there's a huge void and disconnect in my life, right? So that just made it much tougher. I mean, and then during the 9 months to my first real estate deal, my mom ended up moving to Nevada. So then I had to ask one of my high school friends if I could live with him. And this is just graduating high school. So, back is against the wall, like fully, right? I have no money. I have no job. I have to live at my friend's house. I have nobody to call up and say, hey, help me, or hey, loan me money, or hey, I need money for marketing, right? It's like I had nobody to reach out to, right? And in those times, I a huge part of me really victimized myself, and really just felt really sorry for myself. But during those 9 months, like I just kept hitting the pave. I just kept staying consistent to what I thought would get me my first deal, and I just kept staying focused on bandit signs and door knocking. Right. And I did that for 9 months, and I put out, over 1,000 bandit signs. I knocked on a few hundred doors. For me, it was like the lack of information that really limited me. And now it's like it's a beautiful thing to see, podcasts and interviews and all this information out there where people could actually learn and they have access to that, right? And this was, for me, it's 2015. There was information, but I just didn't know where to look for it, right? So 9 months went by, really, really tough, place in my life. And I ended up getting a deal under contract here in Phoenix, by a bandit sign. It was a $5,000 deal that I got the house for 110. It was worth about 160, 150. And I assigned it to a buyer at 115. So I was going to make $5,000. At this time, this is November of 2015. It's like my eighth month in the business, or trying to get my first deal. And I had that $5,000 deal closing, and I quit my job the week before. This was like Christmas time, 2015. I quit my job banking on this $5,000 deal, and I get a call on closing day. After I quit my job, I have rent coming up. At this time, I'm living at a studio, and I get a call from the seller, and the seller says, "Hey, my dad has cancer. We're not going to sell the property," right? So imagine me working so tirelessly and just so committed to, like, really out of survival more than anything, trying to make this business happen. I get this deal under contract for $5,000. I quit my job, which was at that time not the right thing to do. And then, the seller calls me and tells me his dad has cancer and they're not going to sell the property. So there's nothing I could do at that point. I wasn't going to strong arm a serious situation like that. So here I am, like, heartbroken, right? Heartbroken because, again, over 1,000 bandit signs. This was like my first, potential deal, my first potential check. I was banking on it so hard, and then it just fell apart. And I was just so close. And at this point, like, because that happened, like month 8, I totally quit real estate. I'm like, I'm done. I want no part of it. It works for everybody else, but it doesn't work for me. I'm good. And led me to, like, about 2-3 weeks of, like, pure depression. Like, it did. Like, I was so crushed and hurt. Again, I didn't have anyone to call, and just speaking the story, I could feel the emotion because it was like I just felt so down and crushed, right? And the way that it all switched around, right? Like, there's and the story's still going on, but the story really shifted. Was I'm about 2-3 weeks after I lost that deal. My girlfriend invites me to Buffalo Wild Wings to get food. We drive by her grandma's. She's gonna get ready, and she says, "Hey, do you want to come inside?" I'm like, "No, I'm okay." So I stay in the car. I had a $800 Ford Taurus with no tags, no insurance. I didn't have the money for that, but I had a car, so I was grateful for that. And my girlfriend went to get ready inside. I'm in the car, and again, I'm crushed. I'm talking like 2 weeks of just, like, not going out, staying inside, like watching ESPN and, like, playing video games all day because I just, like, life was too real for me. And it was in that moment where I was waiting outside for my girlfriend, and I was hearing the Christian station radio, and they were talking about a message, right? A verse from the Bible. And, I'm paraphrasing, but the message that I heard on the radio was, God doesn't put you through a road that you won't come out of, right? That he won't provide the way out. And in that moment, I felt a connection that was void for, like, probably a few years, right? And I felt this reassuring feeling that it's going to be okay. And that moment, I felt the urge, right? This is like, this was a very life-shifting moment in my life. I felt the urge to drive for dollars, right? Like, go around the neighborhood and look for vacant houses. And that's exactly what I did. I left my girlfriend at her grandma's, and I just started driving for dollars. She's calling me like, "Where are you at?" I'm like, "I'll be right back." So I drive for dollars in South Phoenix, where I'm at. And I see a vacant house. I call that. I look up the owner on the assessor. I call that house. Nobody answers. The next house that I see, I call I find the owner's name on the county assessor. I look up his information on an app called Intellius, which I don't recommend now, but back then that's all I knew. And there's about 4 or 5 numbers on the seller's profile. I called all of them, and none of them worked, right? And I just had a thought. I'm like, call the relatives, right? So I click on the relatives of this seller's profile, where I'm looking for his number. And there's a relative. It was a lady's name. She didn't have the same last name as the seller. So I'm like, she's probably not related. I end up calling that lady, and it ends up being the actual seller, right? His name was Jose, right? So it's like all this divine. It was just, the synchronicities were just like, whoa. Like, so I call the relatives number. It ends up being the seller, and then I give him the pitch. Hey, my name is Alex. I was driving by the area, and just curious to see if you're interested in selling your property here it was on Tonto Street. It was on Tonto Street in Phoenix, and he's like, yeah, he's like, I'd love to sell. He's like, if you take a look across the street, I have another property. You can buy both if you give me the right offer. And so there's two houses on the same street. They're both vacant. And I'm like, okay, I'll call you back. He's like, call me back tomorrow. I call him back 10 minutes later. I go on Zillow. At this point, I really don't know how to run numbers. I haven't bought a course, or I haven't really dove deep into it. So I called back, and I offered him $50,000 for both properties. And the guy hung up on me. I'm like, what did I do wrong? So then I like take a further deep dive into what the property's worth. And these houses are worth like 120 each, right? Like retail. And they needed a lot of work. So then I called back and I said, hey, what would you sell these two properties for? Like, what's your number? What's the best you can do? And the guy said 100,000. And I'm like, would you take 60? He said, no. I'm like, would you take 70? No. Would you take 80? No. So like, I'm like just throwing every offer out. And finally, like an amazing negotiator that I am, I got him down to $92,000. Right. Okay. And I feel like it's a deal. But then again, I'm like, I'm not too sure. So I end up sending the contract, totally mess up the contracts, like send him an option agreement instead of a purchase agreement. And fast forward, he ended up signing those two contracts, and then I sold the deal in 2 days. And all I did is I called the for rent by owners in the area, and I left voicemails and let them know that I had two properties in South Phoenix, and I left probably like 10 voicemails. And the guy calls me back the next day, and he says, "Hey, you left a voicemail. What's the details?" I give him the details. He's like, "Oh, I live down the street. I'll go drive him." 30 minutes later, he calls me back. It's like 2 days after I got the contracts. He calls me back, and he says, "How much do you want for them?" Well, I didn't think that far ahead, because I didn't know if they were even deals. And the first number that came in my mind was 105,000, right? So I just threw it out there, and the guy said, "I'll take them." I'm like, dang, I should have said 110, 115, right? But fast forward from this was, like a Monday. That same Friday, I got the deal under contract. I opened up escrow, found the buyer by Wednesday, and then by Friday, the cash buyer closed all cash, and I had a check for $13,000. And before, I had about maybe $80, maybe just over $100. And fast forward to Friday, I had $13,000. And from that moment on, the proof of concept was real. I knew that it wasn't the business; it was me and my efforts, and my skill sets that I had to improve on. And it just all clicked for me, right? And I mean, now this was 18, 18, 19. And it just shifted everything. Like that was my first deal. But I look back at those 9 months, and I just realized, like, man, it was a struggle that made me who I am, right? That built my capacity, that built my patience in this business, that built the grit that it requires. Because even as you hit 6-figure months, right? Like, you still hit these dips, and you have overhead and expenses. And I'm here, at my office building now, and it's like, those 9 months taught me so much. Like, I never took any deal for granted, and I always just like controlled the controllables, and just kept the positive outlook looking forward. And from this was 2016 when I closed my first deal. I was a one-man show. 2016 closed 12 deals for 120,000. So I was 19 by then. So I closed over 6 figures at 19. Really as a hobby business. Like, I was like renting like a $300 room, playing basketball and and video games, and I was making, average $10K a month. My marketing was like, 15,000 that year. So like I profited and I kept a lot of it in the bank. I didn't buy no crazy car at the time.
Yeah.
So like I just didn't take it for granted, and so I went from 12 deals, and then I really doubled down on my education when it came to real estate. Attended a few events, masterminds, and what happened from 2016 to 12 deals. I went from 12 deals to 52 deals the next year. Right, I hired an acquisition manager. I had 5 cold callers. This is 2017, and we closed 615,000 in wholesale deals. So like this huge jump from like 120 kind of hobby business to actually taking it like a business. Like I didn't want to just be a hustler. I actually wanted to have a business, and that's what happened. And throughout the last years, I have a brand now by the name of offerhome.com. And we have done 100 deals in 19 and 20, and we are definitely on track for this year again. So it's been 350 plus deals since the start of my journey. But we've been able to do amazing things now. From we do events, and we have a solar company and data company and all this other software, and just segueing on to developments, and drive my dream car, and kind of travel when I want, and just really like it's been a whole it's completely turned around from what it was at 18, right? But it all started with that first deal. Like if that first deal never happened, obviously I wouldn't be here, but it was the lessons that I learned throughout that journey. And now it's been a complete blessing. All praise to God, but it's been amazing.
Wow. That's truly inspiring.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
the one thing I want people to understand is a lot of people know you. They see you on Instagram, they see you on YouTube, and they might see you. They see the Bentley, they see the awesome stuff, and like the reason why I always love bringing up stories like that is because they see the end result. You have a sick office. You got the whole team and everything, but they didn't really see the hard work it took. They didn't see the Ford Taurus. They didn't see the depression when getting started. I mean, I know sometimes it's interesting just bringing up those stories, but I think it's so important for people to have context of like what's behind the man of Alex.
Yeah, I mean, people, they kind of see the outer, right? But the inner struggles and battles that I face and everybody has faced, right? Because we're all human. That's what ultimately makes you, right? And I think the biggest breakthrough for me in my journey is like it's not about winning and losing. Like it's not. And I actually posted this today. It's like about winning and learning, right? Because in every loss, every struggle, every just every obstacle, and just every time that you've been down and you feel like there's no way out, and maybe you're spending your last dollar to make to make your dream happen. Like even though at that time they feel like losses, they're always lessons, right? So if we can reflect back on our past or maybe our current situation and just learn from all the things that happened that have led us to this point, then you're going to just learn lessons so much quicker that are going to serve you, right? Like for me, like one of the biggest things was I had a victim, mindset, right? Like I felt like I felt like I deserved like a deal. Like it was like I felt like entitled to success, right? Like I did. I'm like it's for me it was like, oh well, this person's successful, like, and it was never like I'm better than them, but it was like I'm just as good as them. Like why isn't it for me, right? So like being like for me it was like the victim mindset and just realizing like nothing's promised, right? You really have to earn everything. And the faster that you learn from your mistakes in the past, the faster that you are going to earn. So for me, I look back at all those struggles and moments, and they've all been lessons, right? The good, the bad, the ugly, the great. They have all just been, a combination of, who I am today. And, I'll say this, but, before I, stay quiet, like who you are today, who you are today at this moment is a sum of all things, right? That's the good, the bad, the ugly, the great. So like for me, like I look back at my journey, like I wouldn't change a thing. Even the stuff that really hurt me, right? Like I wouldn't change a thing because I love who I am today, right? I love that I have all those experiences and lessons to prevent me future pain, to allow me to be a better person, businessman, soul, boyfriend, brother, and son. So like, everything accumulated is who you are today. So like, I don't wish to change anything because I've already, learned the lessons that were required.
Definitely. So yeah, I really appreciate it. I know you're wearing an all-in entrepreneur hat. So really quickly for everyone,
Yeah.
that logo, everyone sees it. What is that logo, and what is that all about?
Yeah. So all in entrepreneurs, allinnation.com. Man, this was really a huge passion project for us, right? Like, 2016, 17, 18, went to a lot of masterminds, attended a lot of events, invested a lot into self-education, which is one of the biggest reasons why, I continue to scale and scale at a, consistent rate, is because of self-education, right? So in 2018, June of 2018, we decided to throw our first event. And the reason for that is we went to about two masterminds early 2018. And, it's a mastermind, just an event where, 10, 15, 20 people gather and they share their business, right? So, but every time for those two events, we shared our business, everybody was like asking us like every question in the book. How do you do this? How do you train your cold callers? How do you run a sales team? How do you hire? How do you track your numbers? So it became a lot of questions, right? And when we go to masterminds, it was only like a 30-minute time slot. So you really can't explain your whole business in 30 minutes, right? So and we went to the masterminds, and they weren't the best thing. And it was like I know we could do better, right? Like, and the marketplace, people need, you get, I get hundreds of messages. I imagine you do too. And it's like, it's really hard to answer to everybody. But if, for us, if you throw an event, you could just really focus your time, intention, energy, and your knowledge and wisdom into that event. So then we went to those masterminds, and we just felt like, man, like, we could throw something really good. And what happened what happened was, like, this is our first time throwing an event. We have no prior experience, and we decided to throw it was a $5,000 event, and our first one, and we limited at 60 people from the venue that we got. We didn't think that 60 people were going to show up, and we actually had 65, 66 people show to our first event. I mean, no ads, all organic Facebook marketing, where we just posted about the event. But because we documented our business, journey, like I've documented from my first deal, from my first 6-figure month, to my team, to getting my first office space, to buying our office building. So like, there was a lot of trust in the fact that we do deals, right? Like, I'm not just teaching and not doing deals. Like, I'm actually doing deals, right? Like I'm adapting with the economy. I'm adapting with new marketing strategies. What worked in 2016, I mean, it still works now, but it doesn't work to the magnitude that it worked back then. So now we're just, that's why we threw our first event. And ever since our first event, it's been a blessing, right? Like, I mean, thousands of, people that have come through our events, to our momentum event, which is our 2-day, scaling event, where we take, those that are doing 1 to 3 deals a month and get them, the blueprint to really scale into a multiple 6-figure, 7-figure operation, right? And we've seen so many people come through, right? Like, if you need, the success stories, I can give you hundreds of them. But like, there's so many people that have come to our events. They've gone out and they've totally crushed their market, right? And more importantly, not just make a bunch of money, but like really become better leaders and impact their communities and their families. So like, our core values, I think it's on this side. Our core values are, God, family, hustle, right? And that's been the driving force. I'm big on faith. I do believe that I just would not be here if it wasn't for my faith in God. And then, family, right? Like our values, for us are of, of higher principle, where it's like we don't prioritize, making money over spending quality time with the people that we love and admire. So like, All In's just a beautiful community, bro. And for those that just want more education, it doesn't have to be paid. I'm not asking you to buy anything, but feel free to YouTube All In Entrepreneurs, All In Nation, and you be the judge.
Definitely. At the end of this video, guys, I know this is live right now, but at the end screen, there's going to be 2 podcasts I'm going to put on there. One of Carlos Reyes and one of Sal Shakir. I'm telling you, from all of my podcasts and from the hours I've spent with all of you, you guys have one common denominator, in my opinion. And it's really that you've all had struggles before and you guys all keep your egos out of it and you just help. And that's something I do appreciate. I think you've talked about masterminds before, and some of these masterminds, I'm gonna be honest, like it's all ego, it's all fluff. And I appreciate you going in the actual details and the weeds of things and really helping people out.
No, absolutely. Yeah, it's been an honor, and I can't, it's still early, so I can't see where this ship goes.
Definitely. So let's get into it. We know your story. We know you're doing, let's say, pretty well. You're definitely blessed in your business, but you're doing 7 figures now. So you do the calculations; those are 6-figure weeks, 6-figure months. So break it down for everybody. How does somebody go from 5 figures to 6 figures to 7 figures a year?
Yeah. So four really big departments, right? Number one, a lot of it comes down to capacity, like hands down capacity, right? Like you can, like somebody can put, $20,000-$30,000 into marketing, but they may not have the team ready for that, right? So when I say capacity, is like, how much can you withstand? How many conversations can you have on a daily basis, right? So like for me, it's if I were to prioritize them, it'd be probably number one, your people. So you have to have a team. Like you have to have a team. Now, I'm not saying you need a team of 10, 15 people. I mean, we've been up that high, but it's like you have to have a team, especially on the acquisition side. You cannot scale to 7 figures if you don't have the team to field those calls, right? So number one is the team. We have 5 acquisition managers in our business that are on the phones every single day, right? So the difference between a 5-figure company and a 7-figure company is, for somebody that is maybe a one-man show right now, is, how, if I were to ask you, like, how many calls are you making on a daily basis? It's not going to compare to the amount of 5 people, right? Like, let's just, like, I mean, you could ask anybody in the world, who's going to win, a team of 5 or a team of 1, right? So that to me is where you start multiplying your time. So like if a one-man show, you got, say you put 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours, call it 8 hours a day into your business. I have a sales team of 5 people, and that's 40 hours a day. So my 40 hours a day don't compare to your 8 hours a day, right? So that's number one. Like just the you have to leverage a team for time and expansion of capacity. That's number one. Number two is you have to have the proper marketing channels, right? Like it comes down to leads, like hands down. I mean, you could have a team already, but you may not have enough leads. If you have a team of 5 people and you're only getting 3 leads a day, that's not going to cut it, right? So, but if you're getting 50 to 60 leads a day, which I think that we're about there right now, then the 5 people are always going to be fed. Like they're always going to be fed. So so then so that it's marketing, which is your lead flow. I feel like in order to scale into 7 figures, you can do it you can do it through niche lists, but you really have to start targeting broader marketing lists. So like in order to keep a team of 5 acquisition managers busy, you have to produce some leads. So you can't, like, I can't focus all of my marketing efforts into an inheritance list, because in Phoenix it's only maybe a few hundred a month, or maybe even 100, right? So like 100 people, 100 leads is not going to feed a sales team. So then I have to be broader in marketing. I have to, I'm targeting more of high equity now. We have cold callers, we have PPC. We do a lot of digital advertising with offerhome.com, and that keeps the team busy. So like, I guess the main difference of, just to clear it up is the difference between a 5, maybe low 6-figure to a 7-figure company is, your team and what you can handle as far as, how many outbound calls, and then how many leads you actually talk to, and then your marketing, right? Like if you have a team with no marketing, it's not going to work. And if you have a bunch of marketing with no team, it's not going to work. So those are the two biggest pillars. And then I mean, third and fourth, I would say maybe your dispositions, selling your deal. I truly feel like a lot of wholesalers sell their deals too fast, right? They invest in the marketing, they put in all this work, they follow up with the seller for 3, 6, sometimes a year. They put all this time and energy and effort and their money. And then once they get a deal under contract, they sell it within 30 minutes, right? Versus maximizing your disposition price. Like, we don't sell any deal that we have. We give it anywhere from 24 hours to 48 hours, right? We get as many offers as we can on the property to sell it for the highest price, because I'm in a for-profit business. I'm not like I have a charity, I have a foundation, but my real estate company is for profit, right? Like, we have to keep the lights on. Like, this office building isn't cheap, right? So like, plus the overhead. So that's something that somebody can focus on to really increase their numbers, right? Like, if example, if somebody did 30 deals last year, what if you were a little better on your disposition process and you maximize the number, and you took maybe better pictures and a video walkthrough, and you maybe cleaned out the house so you can sell it to the highest, for the highest price. And over 30 deals, say you got $3,000 more on average, that's $100,000 on just one fix, right? So like, being able to see your business and saying, okay, in my marketing, what can I maximize? And do I need more leads? Well, if I need more leads, can we even handle that? On the acquisition side is, how many leads do I need to get a deal, right? Like, that's the biggest factor in acquisitions. Like, how many leads to a deal, right? Because if I know that for every 50 leads I get one deal, then it just becomes a numbers game. I just know that for every 50 leads that we bring in from cold calling and our marketing channels, the conversion should be one deal. So that, I mean, those are some pointers that I can give for the difference in 5-figure to 7-figure company. A lot of it is mindset and tolerance for risk, right? Like, I don't see marketing as an expense. Like, I personally don't. I've been in the business for years now. Like, and really, if you ask any business owner that's been in business for a long time, marketing is not an expense. Marketing is an investment, right? Like, marketing is an investment. So it's these mind shifts to really begin to increase your budgets and begin to increase your company. I don't see people as an expense. Sometimes they are if they don't convert, but like, for the most part, like, a new hire is an investment, right? Like, we do 90-day, more like really trial periods. So it's like $2,000 to $2,500 base. So like, I know for every new hire on the acquisition side, we have a good team now, but on the new hires, it's like, okay, if they don't close a deal, then I lose out $6,000 to $7,000. But really, it's like, when it comes to hiring somebody, like, if you're looking at like the loss of maybe $6,000, like, and you're not thinking about the $100,000 in deals that they can bring you, well, you're kind of looking at the wrong thing. So like, my whole point is like, don't focus on the loss, like, be aware of that, but like, really ask yourself, like, dang, okay, what could this be, right? Like, because one good hire can close $300,000, $500,000 in deals, right? Like, and so those are some of the mindset hurdles that you have to get over. It's like, in order to scale, you have to invest in people, you have to invest in marketing, and you got to get out of your own way. I knew for me, when I first started, I felt like nobody could do it better than me. So like, and I feel like that's a common case between entrepreneurs,
Oh yeah.
amongst most for sure. But what you have to realize, like, you only have 100% to give, and if you're giving 25% to marketing, 25% to acquisitions, 25% to dispositions, and then 25% to operations, books, and learning, watching podcasts and self education, you're kind of stretched out too thin, right? But if you can hire a disposition manager to fully put 100% of his time into that, and I just cleared up 25% of my time. Maybe I have to give pointers here and there, but like for the most part, like now my disposition department's fully automated, and it's just about letting go of the vine so you can create more. No seven-figure company, majority of most seven-figure company, it's not a one-man show, right? Like you need help. It's a necessity. You just have to look at those things as investments versus expenses.
Definitely. I mean, the one thing I do have to ask, because you run a very, very good company going with your seven figures. How do you find? Because I think you mentioned that like no one can be as good as you. What are your acquisitions guys? Is it Andy Garcia? Is he your like big acquisitions guy?
Yeah, yeah, he's my sales
How
director. He's
how
in charge.
how do you get a guy like that? That dude is an absolute beast. Like, how do you find guys like that for your business? Because I mean, just hearing some of his stuff, it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Well, I've known him since I was 6, so I've been kind of blessed.
Oh
But
man.
no, actually, when he first joined the team, he was, I think he was working at Domino's and really had no sales experience, like at all, right? Um, and I think the biggest things is like you have to support your your team members in a way where they can run too, right? Like,
Mm,
don't just, as a business owner, you can't just hold everything that you know in your head. You have to create a structure and a process for them to learn, so then they can enhance it, right? So for the biggest things that I could share, like just from a leader to raising another leader, or to elevating and expediting another leader. He's a sales director now, but it was really structure and then the process. So when I say structure, it's like that would come down to like a set of expectations, a set of procedures, and a sales. And then on the process side, it was a sales process. So it's like and then on the sales process, it's really the way we handle calls, and then how we do performance management, where it's where there's accountability and responsibility to those calls. So like we do a lot of weekly meetings. We I mean, a great book that I recommend is Traction by Gino
mhm.
Wickman. I mean, that book like shifted everything when I was about 19. Just the fact that you can really organize your business in a way to have people win, right? um, but yeah, I wouldn't say like, I know I definitely got lucky, but it wasn't like in the beginning, it wasn't like all sunshine and rainbows. Like Andy did have to learn a lot, but because you give people exactly what they need, eventually they just rise up. And for me, it happened pretty quickly. But yeah, I mean, have I found another Andy? No, but I believe they're out there.
Definitely. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, managing people is just one of the hardest parts of running a seven-figure wholesaling business. But this brings me next to my next thing is, can you share with the audience what your current structure looks like in your wholesaling business? Like, what does the average deal look like? What's the marketing channel? How is it getting
Yeah.
sold? How is it getting acquired? And what markets are you doing?
Yeah, so let's talk marketing first. So marketing, we are primarily digital marketing that consists of pay-per-click, Google ads,
Wow.
and then SEO, so search engine optimization, where we rank in really a handful of parts throughout the U.S. And then Facebook, we do Facebook ads as well. So that's our digital marketing, and then cold calling is our second. We have 6 callers right now. I've been as high as like 20, 21 callers, but we like to we have 6 good ones, and then And then the third one would be SMS. So we do. I mean, we've been doing SMS marketing since like 2017. And there's been a lot of changes recently, but those are our three core strategies. I mean, I've done every marketing you could think of, but we get a lot of consistency with those three. I think the most consistency, in my opinion, has been digital marketing, solely for the fact that there is a lot of people on it, but it's not as saturated as cold calling or these offline marketing methods. So that's marketing. On the personnel structure, so it's me, CEO. It's Andy, COO, sales director. My brother is a dispositions and then asset manager, so he handles our flips, rentals, and he handles all of the dispositions, selling every single deal on through our wholesale business. And then under Andy, he has 4 acquisition managers that are on the phones, pounding the concrete. And then on the disposition side, we have an admin and admin slash disposition assistant. So she handles a lot of the paperwork, transaction coordination, and that's pretty. I have my realtor as well, so he's in house. So he handles all of our retail listings. Because on the online side, we get a lot of leads, and a lot of those are, for the most part, a lot of retail. So we have a retail leg of our business, and then under him, he has 3 agents under him that help him with the day-to-day stuff. So, so in house, that's it. I mean, I have a digital campaign manager. He does all our online stuff. Everything else is really outsourced. Like we have VAs that handle and all the KPI spreadsheets. But for the most part, everything's really lean, right? And we have a full-time CFO in our office building that handles not just the wholesale side, but all of our companies. So it's I mean, we run pretty lean. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the structure. What was the other question? I mean, as far as the process on our leads, I mean, it's fairly simple, right? So we put out marketing. We never stop marketing. We never stop our marketing channels. Even in 2020, we didn't stop. Kept it consistent. So we put out marketing. Leads come all directly to our Podio, which is our CRM service that we use. So we keep track of all the leads through there. And then our acquisition managers, we have a 30-minute rule. Like if it's a new lead, it has to be contacted before 30 minutes or before. No waiting, even if it's 9 o'clock at night. Like there should be a call. So then all the leads go into our Podio. Acquisitions go in there, and they call the new leads, follow-up leads, and everything's pretty organized in our CRM service. And then let's say we get a deal under contract. All the markets that we're in, we're primarily in Phoenix, Vegas, and California, mainly the Bay Area. So, I mean, we've done deals all throughout California, but our primary in California is San Francisco Bay, Oakland area. And then I would say like 60% of our, no, actually probably, what would I say? 40% of our deals are in Phoenix, and then 30% of our deals are in Vegas, and then the other 30% are in California. So throughout those markets, I mean, we've wholesaled in you name it. I mean, Texas, Colorado. I haven't done Utah, Texas, Florida, Vermont, Connecticut. Kansas City, Oklahoma. Just like so many cities throughout the U.S. that we've done a ton of deals everywhere. But our main, we just focus on our markets that, have been the most profitable for us. And the average profit per wholesales, like in California, we just closed one today for 33,000. So our average is, those are above 30. Like our last one was like 40. And those are actually pretty small assignments compared to some wholesalers out there. But we've been consistent with at least 30K plus on the California side. And then on the Vegas side, we're probably averaging about like 20,000. And then in Phoenix, our goal now is to flip more in Phoenix, but our average is about 16 to 17,000 in Phoenix. So it's one of our lowest wholesale averages, but we get the most amount of deals here, so it kind of balances out. Yeah, I mean, I think I gave a kind of overview. Is there any other questions you want me to elaborate on?
No,
Or anything?
that's it. I mean, we're getting a lot of questions on the comments here. So everyone's wanting to know, what list are you pulling?
List. So when it comes to lists, I mean, let's say, because for cold calling and our SMS, well, like I was mentioning earlier, like we pull really big lists, right? So like for me, me and Sal, what we did is for the last 2 years, we pulled the entire county of
Wow.
Phoenix. So it was like 800, 700, 800,000 records, skip traced it all. So then that saved, I mean, it was very pricey, but that gives us such a big list to, not have to worry about it. So that was like what we did. But like, to answer your question, I think that the best list, and just really any market, are the ones that are probably preached about the most, right? You have your absentee. I think absentee is one of the greatest lists that you can pull. Most people will say, well, everybody's hitting those, right? And I would say there's a lot of variables, because there is, I would ask, like, what data are you using, right? Like, are you using quality skip trace data? How is your cold calling, right? Because you may call a lead, and then I call a lead, and maybe I get the lead and they want to sell to me, but maybe you just took a bad approach, or you didn't stick to, to the point, or it's just something happened in your conversation where, they were turned off by your conversation. But for me, it's a lead, right? Not only that, but like, we can call the same list, and say we have the same skip trace data, and then we cold call them, but maybe, just maybe, my sales team is just much better than your sales skills, right? So I think that I never, there is a lot of good lists, right? Like, your absentee, inheritance, probates, code violations, vacant land. Like, there is a lot of good lists, but ultimately what you want to focus on is your skill set, right? Because me and you can, and I'm not saying you, but like me, whoever's watching this, generally, we can have the same 100 leads, right? And it's going to come down to who is better on the phones and who can solve, the seller's problems. So I think a lot of people focus too much on the list and not enough on their sales skills. So then by the time they get leads, you're competing with, people that are really, focusing on what they should be focused on, which is their sales skills. Because anybody can produce leads, right? But not everybody can close deals. So you want to focus on more of your sales process and sales skills. You want to focus on that much more than, fixating on what list should you pull, because again, you could pull any list, but it's a matter of, can you solve the seller's problems and can you close? It's two simple things.
Wow. I mean, that's it. I mean, that 800,000, I can't imagine skip tracing
Yeah.
on that, but wow. Wow. So a follow-up question from Snowsy's here. He says, how often do you hit basically each list, I guess?
Yeah, so it depends on the list. So if it's like a pre-foreclosure, depending on the auction date, I mean, we typically don't hit it more than like 2 to 3 times,
Mm.
contact attempts, unless it's like we know it's a deal and we're going after it. But like, if it's an absentee list, I mean, we hit it as many times as we can, because, for example, like, say it's like a 20+ year ownership list. Most sellers, like, say you have 1,000 leads, well, actually for us it's a lot more, but let's actually say 10,000. So you have 10,000 leads that are 20+ year ownership, right? What makes you think that next year or in 6 months all of them are going to sell, right? Like, they've
Mm.
already owned it for 20 years, right? 3 months is not I mean, they're not just all going to sell, right? So those leads are still very good leads. So like, I wouldn't, like, my answer to the question, would be, I mean, as many times as you can. But if I were to say a number, I mean, I would say anywhere from like 8 to 12 times, go around it or hit it continuously. But it just depends on the lead. Like if it's a 20 plus year ownership list and you got it last year, I would still say that's a good list because not all 20 or not all 10,000 sellers just, got up last year and sold. Maybe 5 to 10% of them, but that's still 9,000 leads that you can target that you paid money for because data is not cheap.
Oh no, definitely not.
Yeah,
So,
we know. Yeah, we know that firsthand.
So yeah, we're getting a lot of comments here. Everyone's loving your stuff. Everyone's motivated. This is great. We got Lay asks. She says this live motivated me. Made an offer on a property. Just made one. Wish me luck. Right. Awesome. Christopher asks, hey man, you said you were not organized in the beginning. You said you took 9 months. What's your best tip for organizing?
Yeah, I would say you have to create a game plan and execute that game plan. You can't just say you're going to do something and then not do it. So like if your goal is to get a deal, my goal is not to, like my goal for you, and I don't know if you've done deals or not, Chris, but like go after like the 100 no's. Like make that your goal. Like, hey, I want to call and make offers and get 100 no's because that's just going to take you closer to your yes. So to get organized, I would just make sure that when you set a game plan or you say you're going to do something, actually do it. And don't feel like if you set a game plan of getting a deal, make it reasonable, like make it actionable steps. So it's like, okay, if I have to, get my first deal, my goal is to, and I don't know your time, but it's like I'm for, 4 hours every single day, I can, for 4 hours every single day, what I'm going to do is cold call. I'm going to call seller leads, and then I'm going to make, offers, right? To the seller leads. So like you have to make it measurable goals. So then you can stay consistent. So like if your goal every single day was, I want to make 10 offers a day, and that's all you did, eventually you're going to compound all those offers where you're going to get a deal. Like it's inevitable if you continue to do that. Now, I don't know if it's going to take you 6 weeks or 9 months like it took me, but my point's like you want to do, daily tasks that you say, when you say you're going to do them, you do them. That ultimately is for that goal, that outcome that you desire. I think the biggest mistakes that I did during the 9 months is like I was busy, but I wasn't doing like money producing activities. Like I was like learning and I was like trying to learn all this data stuff versus just picking up the phone and making offers. So in order to get organized, just focus 80% of your day on money producing activities, and that's going to expedite, everything else. And I mean, just some organization resources. Like I use a Todoist. Todoist is an app where you can, it's a task management app. There's an app called Toggle, Toggl, track. So it's a tracker. So you could time block, 3 hours. I live by my calendar. Like I have to have a calendar invite or it just doesn't happen. Like, right. Like either you rule your time or your time rules you. So like, I'd rather rule my time knowing exactly what I have to do every single day. So then just set deadlines, right? Like if you want to get organized, you have to get it from your head to paper and, that could be to calendar as well, but you have to get super clear on what you want in order to do that. And then the last tip is like, when it comes to like having productive time, it's about the quality of time that you put into your business and not the quantity. So you want to make sure that when you say you're going to work 4 hours, you're not just busy for 4 hours, you're actually doing money producing activities, right? So I always keep an 80-20, like 80% of the time I'm doing something that either, elevates my leaders, elevates my revenue, or elevates, the business, right? Like it's those simple things. 80% of the time I'm doing things to elevate some part of the business or leader or, revenue. And then 20% of the other time I'm doing research and development. I'm reading a book or I'm watching a podcast or I am, reviewing old notes for masterminds or I'm networking. So like, although like those are all productive stuff, you have to realize like the money producing activities, come in this business come down to marketing, right? Getting marketing, get the phones ringing, talking to people, closing deals. Like marketing, talking to people, closing deals. Like those are the money producing activities. So don't, actually, this is a huge lesson for everybody. I used to try to like, I was like OCD freak about the business. I'm like, man, like I want everything to be perfect, right? Um, but then I would like neglect like marketing, right? Let's like, oh, I need to better my disposition process. So then I just like don't even pay attention about marketing, and I'm focusing on dispositions. So my point here is like, if you focus on a certain part of your business, just make sure that your business is still flowing in the areas that matter, right? Because you can fix problem as long as you're making money in this business, you can fix any problem, right? But at the moment you stop making money in this business and you have problems, well, now you have two problems. You have lack of revenue and lack of really a sound mind because you're focusing on just everything. So just make sure marketing is always going and you're producing on money and you're focusing on money producing activities.
Definitely. And we're getting a lot of questions, guys. I can't answer every one. Some of these questions Alex has already answered before. So the last couple of questions here for you guys is Anthony asks here, can you break down real quick your pay structure for each team member and how much your company should be profiting in terms of ROI a year after marketing cost and paying each team member?
Okay, that's like 4 different questions. So which one do I start with? Yeah, so pay structure, I mean, just to keep it, very direct, we do base plus commission, and our commission on each deal is 10% gross. And then the base fluctuates from position. So I mean, 2 to 5,000 base, depending on the leadership position. But yeah, it's 10% of gross amount. What's the other question? How much should your company be profiting in terms of ROI a year after marketing costs and paying each team member? So in the beginning, I was like at 70-80% profitability. Even in 2017, I believe it was 72-71%. So like out of 615,000, I kept 70% because it was just a team of cold callers and just paying commissions. But now as you grow, we do a lot of online marketing. So a lot of it's like investing now for the future. I would say a healthy profitability now for my business, before taxes, above 50%. So if we make 200,000 a month, my expectation is to keep just over 100,000. And that's after paying everybody. So, and that's, very reasonable if you have, systems in place and you track your numbers. So that's what I would shoot for when it comes to a bigger business. But if you're a one-man show, you could be very profitable depending on the marketing that you're doing. I think one of the biggest mistakes that I see a lot of people do is like they'll get a deal, say by driving for dollars, and they'll take all that money and dump it into like cold calling, right? Versus focusing on how you got your first deal or how you actually made money. So, if you got a deal a certain way, keep at that, right? Don't stop that and add on to that. Don't say, I'm just going to jump from driving for dollars to cold calling and forget about driving for dollars. Keep both, right? Because you already know a proven model and process on how you got your deal by driving for dollars. And then to learn cold calling is a totally new thing. So just make sure you keep that consistency with what has worked, and then you add on to make it more work, make it work more.
Definitely. Great answer. So last question here is Donna asks, since you're doing your virtual wholesaling here, do you make offers on the first call, and how are you determining value so quickly?
Great question. We do make, okay, so it depends. So if it's a cold call lead and it's already been qualified and it's in our system, we do make offers on the first call from the acquisition standpoint, right? But our cold caller is not making the offer. If it's a direct mail call, we don't make offers on the first call because we're fielding it. It depends a lot on the conversation and lead flow, but for the most part, like my sales guys are making offers on the first call. not my cold callers, but my sales guys. And then how do I determine value so quickly? Well, for us, we've been in Phoenix, Vegas, and California for a few years now. So we know the pockets, we know we have buyers, we have immediate buyers that will tell us their price so we can negotiate back and forth. But I would, for us, I mean, I think the greatest tool is definitely the MLS for us, just because we can, I mean, in under 3 minutes, just based on square footage, we can see the sold comparables. So we do a lot of square footage comping, where it's really quick. So, and that's because of our experience in the market. But yeah, I would say like a healthy time to comp a property is definitely like under 5 minutes. Like if you can keep it under 5 minutes and make that call, you can be pretty efficient throughout the day. You have to, another like value tip that I'll add is when it comes to offers, we don't make hard offers. We don't say, hey, Mr. Seller, we can do $160,000. We actually do ranges to allow us to, so instead of like saying 160, we say, hey, Mr. Seller, based on the comparables in the area, we'd be anywhere from 140,000 to 160,000. Is this something that that you would proceed with? So then we give ourselves a range because we're making offers over the phone, and sometimes the seller's going to tell us that the property is totally remodeled, and we get in there and there's like popcorn ceiling and old 60s tile. So like you give an offer range to be able to easily negotiate after you actually see the property and get pictures. So yeah, that's a tip that I'll add. So and then on the comping, always focus more on the ARV, the actual value versus the rehab cost, right? Because if you are, the after repair value is so much more important than the rehab cost, and I'll tell you why. Because if you're 10% off on a $400,000 property, you are $40,000 away from the actual repair value. But if you're 10% off on your rehab costs, well, it's only like $4,000. So we just focus much more on hey, let's spend more time on the actual value, and then we estimate repairs on square footage, and that typically has helped us tremendously.
Wow. Thank you so much for helping these people out. That's a great answer there. So, last two questions for me is right now, if you were sitting down with yourself, let's say you're back in that Taurus, listening to that radio, and you didn't know what's going on. What would your number one piece of advice you could give to yourself back when you're 18 years old? No deals, no money. What would you say to yourself?
Great question. I mean, it sounds so cheesy, but it's take it one day at a time. I think sometimes as as eager entrepreneurs, right? We like patience, and in real estate, you can win really fast, right? But for the most part, this game is a marathon and not a sprint, right? So you have to take it one day at a time, and I'd take it even further. It's like one action at a time, one task at a time. Because like if you have a huge goal for real estate, whether it's $1 million in a year or I don't know, 1 million properties in your portfolio, I don't know, like whatever the goal is, if you keep fixating on that end goal, you're really going to get overwhelmed, right? If I said, hey, you have to make I don't know, 10,000, 100,000 calls to earn $1 million. Like you wouldn't even know where to start. But if you break that down into, 52 weeks and then 4 week or 52 weeks and then, 5, 6 days a week. And then those 6 days a week to, 8 hours, then you could actually get measurable goals. I would definitely say one day at a time. Like, and I'll say this, it's like, when you hear the saying, like, how do you eat an elephant? And the answer everybody says is like one bite at a time, right? But if you think about it, if you eat an elephant one bite at a time, you're going to get pretty full pretty fast. Like you're going to get full really fast. So then the way to actually eat an elephant is like breaking it down by daily, hourly tasks. So it's like this hour I'm doing this, this day I'm focused on this. And eventually a month later, 2 months later, 6 months later, 5 years later, like me, you've eaten a few elephants and you've accomplished some of the real estate goals that you've strived for. So definitely one day at a time. And, just some honorable mentions. It definitely self-education, and that's not in the form of like spending thousands of dollars on courses or events, but start with a $5 leadership book, right? Like start with, you can go to thrift stores and get $1 books, dollar books. So it's just committing to the self-learning process to really expand your mental, physical, and spiritual capacity, so you can actually, build up the capacity to actually build something bigger than just yourself. I think in my journey, like the biggest thing is how to manage stress, right? Like how to manage a team of, because now it's not just a real estate company, I have other companies. So it's like how to manage 30 different personalities in the office, and how to be an optimal leader. Like that to me is super important. So if I could go back to my 18-year-old self, is just really dive deep into to capacity. It's self-education, and that's going to help you so much more as you grow.
Definitely. Wow, that was amazing. So my last question for you is, it's the Bags to Riches podcast. I started as a bag boy with $300 in my bank account, and I ask every single guest at the end this same exact question. So Alex, if you had $300 in your bank account, you're back at 18 years old, straight out of high school, in 2021, what would you do to become the next Alex Saenz?
I would do a few things. Number one is, and actually you don't have to spend money, but I imagine that if anyone's watching this, you probably have a phone. If you don't have a phone, you're borrowing a phone, so you still have a phone. I would I would make a list of 100 people that I know. And I would, even if I don't know 100 people, I would ask the people if they know 5 people, right? So I would just make a network list of 100 people and call everybody and say that I'm looking to buy a house, and I'm, willing to, give them a $500 fee once the deal closes, right? Not your $300 that you have. So you can make a free list of people that you know and just tell people what you do. We forget that we are our biggest marketing channel, right? Like our voice and our message to everybody, right? So let people know that you're looking to buy houses. That's something free. You can keep those $300 and just keep doing that until you get a deal. But if I were to spend money, I would, let's say there's no excuse, right? Like if you have a car, I would start driving for dollars. That's the first thing I'll do. And if you don't have a car, take the $300 and go buy a $20, $30, $50 bike and start biking for dollars in areas, right? Like there's no excuse. It really comes down to your ability to be resourceful and just have a winning mindset with the fact that it doesn't matter what happens. Like these are proven methods, right? Like I'm telling you, hundreds of people have got deals, probably thousands of people have got deals driving for dollars, right? They're no better than you watching right now. Like it's just about committing to that process and making it happen. And I'm probably like at $50 budget right now, but if I were to do 300, I would definitely, find a list, a really niche list, either a probate, inheritance, or tax defaults. Even if you start with a list of 100 or 200, however you can afford with the $300, and just commit to cold calling those leads. But it really starts with your decision, right? And that decision is, are you going to make it happen, or are you going to keep telling yourself, oh, when I have $1,000, I'm going to start, or when I have $10,000, I'm going to start, right? Because I had like $80 when I started, right? And I put a $10 earnest money, and that was all that was needed, to close a $13,000 check. And I look back and I victimized myself for 9 months, and it took me into the moment to realize, like, man, it wasn't about not having money or having money. It was about my effort and intention on what I really wanted. So, for those, listening to, what we've mentioned so far on this podcast, like, just make it happen.
Wow.
No
So
excuses.
definitely, man. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast here. How can people get a hold of you, and how can people learn more about you and some of the stuff you're doing? I saw you got momentum coming up soon. Can you tell me a little bit about that? I mean, how can people get in
Yeah.
contact?
Yeah. So if you want to reach out to me directly, you can find me on Instagram or Facebook, Alex Saenz. I think it's right there. And if you have any deals in California, Nevada, Arizona, feel free to email them directly to me, Alex at allinnation.com. Alex at allinnation.com. And that goes directly to me, no assistant, so I could immediately tell you yes or no on any deals that you may have. And yeah, our 2-day momentum event is actually next week. So if you're watching this after
Uh-oh.
next week, then you're gonna have to stay tuned for the next one. But if you want any information on that, go to attendmomentum.com, and you can check that out. And if you're looking, just to keep up with what we're doing, and any future events that we may have, that we will have, because we're here to stay. You can go to allinnation.com, and you will find everything that you need to know and learn about me, Carlos, Sal, and the All In movement. So yeah, man. I mean, here's a question for you. What can I do for you? I mean, this has been a lot of fun.
I mean, the only thing I can do, man, is just keep you hammering and keep inspiring, man. I remember you talked about Jalen White. I used to listen to Jalen White when I was putting stakes in the bandit signs when I was starting out. I mean, I used to listen to all you guys. So, yeah, man, I really appreciate it. You guys, everyone at All In, they're humble. They take the ego out. I truly appreciate it. But thank you so much for coming on. I can't wait to have you on next year when you're not buying a Bentley, you're buying a Gulfstream or whatever crazy stuff you're going on there in the future. But
Yeah,
I really appreciate you coming on.
no, of course, man. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, definitely focus, man. I feel I have everything that I need, and now it's just about really scaling in all areas, right? Like I truly want to be the best version of myself in all areas. So that's the mission now, and I want to help and push as many people as possible to becoming the best versions of themselves. So yeah, it's I look forward to another podcast here soon. And man, I just can't thank you enough. And for everybody watching, keep at it. If you guys require anything, I mean, we're obviously here, for you guys. So thank you all.
Boom. Thank you guys so much. See you next week.